So I've been covering video games on the analytical and business side of things now for 10 plus years. And over all of the years that I've covered Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, I haven't quite seen anything like the drop the price and the misinformation that has hit the Nintendo Switch 2 with any other system. Usually with systems, there's some misinformation, there's some big stuff that's going on, but for the most part, people kind of know what's going on with the system and everything. But the Nintendo Switch 2 is a unique beast in where everyone knows exactly what it is, but because of various different sources that are reporting things and not fixing what they report, and the rise of YouTube and the rise of social media, this is the first system to launch in the biggest blitz of social media content creators to where misinformation runs rampant and people can just say whatever they want. So where does this bring us to right now? Well, it brings us to a very interesting post from Bloomberg and what my analysis is based on what I think is happening with the drop the price controversy and misinformation actually benefiting the Nintendo Switch 2 in a really weird type of way. But let's first get into what Bloomberg had to say and where some of my theory comes from. So Bloomberg, they are expecting the Nintendo Switch 2 to be the biggest console launch in video game history. This would be something pretty historic if they were able to do this. So the analysts that spoke to Bloomberg are predicting that Nintendo will be able to produce anywhere between 6 to 8 million consoles by the time that the Nintendo Switch 2 hits the shelves on June 5th. Now, in comparison, the Sony PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 are tied for the best launch ever, each selling around 4.5 million units in their first 2 months on the market. Now, if the Nintendo Switch is able to hit that 6 million to 8 million range, which is just a mind-blowing number for the launch, the first 2 months, that would overtake the PS4 and the PlayStation 5 for the best launches ever in video game history. Now, why are they making these predictions? Where are they getting these numbers from, and what is going on? Well, there's a number of things that has happened. Obviously, the Vietnam logs in terms of shipments and data, we can kind of piece together some of those. We have potentially the logs and what Nintendo is doing for Japan with the My Nintendo, in addition to retailers as well. And it's looking like it's lining up to be right around that 5 to 7 million range. I know some analysts right here say 6 to 8 million range. It's looking about that. Now, we also have the pre-orders that went live here in the US, and it was an absolute madhouse overall with online. In-store pre-orders were much smoother. If you went and lined up, you got one. There were multiple bundles out there from GameStop. They had all sorts of combinations, some weird type of stuff that they were doing. But for the most part, the Mario Kart World Bundle was in high demand, and Nintendo supplied a lot of systems to a lot of stores. Even some stores that were in more smaller towns were getting 40, 50, 60 plus units. Bigger towns were getting 140 units plus, and lots of the Mario Kart bundles. So that is significantly higher than what we saw with PlayStation 4 and what we saw with PlayStation 5, the two current leaders for the launch of a system. Now, why is all of this happening, right? Just a little bit ago, people were saying that people are priced out, that people aren't going to be able to afford it, that people won't be able to get it for their kids, that no one's going to be able to get this system, that it's too expensive, drop the price, what's going on, Mario Kart 80, there's all sorts of stuff, which we're going to circle back around to Mario Kart and the $80 price tag because something interesting happened the other day. But why is this happening at this point? Well, there's a couple different things. One, if you look at the analytics of the Nintendo Switch base and who buys and plays the games, a lot of people like to just equate it to kids for some reason because they rather not actually research. But if you research, the main base of the Nintendo Switch 1 are people in their 20s, 30s, and early 40s. So people that bought the Nintendo Switch 1, they might have been in their 20s, now they're in their late 20s, or they're in their mid 20s, now they're in their 30s or 40s, right? So those people still want to play Nintendo Switch. They still like it. The Switch has a big active user base. There's still 100 million plus people still playing it. So you're going to get a lot of those 20, 30, 40 year olds, however, maybe even 50 or 60, whatever the case is, right? They're going to be excited. We've all been asking and wanting for a new system, considering some of the problems that the Nintendo Switch 1 has had, getting third-party support, getting the new big games. And now you're seeing instantly that a lot of the big titles are actually coming over to Nintendo Switch 2, at least games that had came out in the last number of years. They're finally coming over to Nintendo Switch 2 because the Switch 2 can handle it, plus Nintendo's handling their own business with big first-party games. So I do think that the whole drop the price thing and misinformation was a little bit of a backfire, because what it did is that it got more people actually interested in seeing what was going on, watching the videos, replaying it, and actually looking up the correct information. For every single video where people put out there saying every single game is $80, people actually went out there and typed it in and looked and saw what people are saying, and actually looked on the websites and see, wait a minute, hold up, if I want Donkey Kong Bonanza, that's not $80. If I want Street Fighter, that's not $80. If I want this or that, that's not $80. Well, wait a minute, hold up. Kirby Star Crossroads, that comes with DLC. Oh, wait a minute, hold up. I can use my Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that I already have, since the game sold 30 million units, or Tears of the Kingdom, that game sold 20 million units. I can already use the game that I have, or I can simply just buy a used copy or buy a cheaper new copy and just upgrade it from there. So all of the misinformation that people continue to put out there, it's actually having the reverse effect. People are talking about the system more. People are researching it more. I'm getting more questions than ever on my live streams and on Twitter, and people are being informed on exactly what it is and saying, oh, wait a minute, hold up. I kind of want that. I don't really think it's even FOMO like some people are saying. There might be some of that, or maybe getting the game or getting the system at a good price, or potential tariffs hit in the future. But overall, people are looking at the content, doing some research, looking at what's going on, looking at different guides that people are putting up, and getting the correct information and saying, okay, hold up, I actually do want that. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild in 60 frames per second. I can use the game that I already have and just upgrade it. If I have NSO, it already just comes available. Okay, cool. I'm down with that. Or, oh my gosh, I want to get the Mario Kart bundle. I can get that for $30 off. I don't have to pay $80 for it. Or, okay, hold up. With Kirby, I can get an upgrade on that. Metroid Prime's coming out as well. DK70, that's not going to be $80. So people are actually researching and seeing exactly what is going on. So a lot of the videos with the misinformation and the drop the price stuff actually ended up being something to where it worked out, because people started looking and researching and asking more questions. And I think that's what's led to this massive spike of people rushing out to go buy the system, as they've learned exactly what the prices are going to be, where they're going to budget, potentially trading in their old systems, things like that, in order to get the Nintendo Switch 2. Heck, there's been some incredible trade-in deals with the Xbox Series X, for example, where you got $420 on a certain day. I think it was on 420. You got $420. So that was pretty awesome. There were a number of people that actually reached out to me and said, hey, they did that to get a Nintendo Switch 2, doing what they need to do in terms of responsibility or financially, and people that just already have been saving for quite some time, because the Nintendo Switch has been around for the longest time period between two systems. The Switch 1 to Switch 2 is the longest in Nintendo history. So I think that's what's actually driving this to become the best console launch in the history of the industry. But what else is the best in the history is all of you guys hitting that subscribe button. So if you have not hit that subscribe button, hit that sub button, hit that like button, and click that notification bell to get my vids as soon as they drop. So what do you guys think about the misinformation? Do you think that a lot of people are actually looking up information? This is my own theory. I can't necessarily 100% prove it. Overall, just looking at what people are saying when they watch the trailers, when they actually get information and say, oh, okay, now that I know, I do want to get this system. I'm just going off of that from what I've seen and from what I've experienced, plus the actual shipment numbers and what is happening. This system is clearly going to be a huge success overall. So I'm just going off of that. So what do you guys think when it comes down to it with these pre-orders and what's happening here and the console launch? Let me know in the comment section below. Next up, I want to talk about some more information that needs to be cleared up when it comes to Marvelous USA and what they had to say about their games. So there's been a lot of discussion, conversation, controversy, talk about game key cards. People don't like them because while they're not tied to your account and they're physical in the shape of a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge, it's actually not a real physical game with the data on there. It's actually a key that you go and you download from the internet, and essentially you have the game there. Now, what it differs from a code in a box or from a digital game is that that's not actually tied to your account. So you can sell it, you can trade it, you can lend it just like you can a regular physical game and not have any issues like you would obviously have where you can't do that with a digital game. So you got to keep that in mind. So key cards are a thing that people are definitely lukewarm to pretty much, I don't want to support this at all. So Marvelous's came out because there was information that Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion in Japan is a game key card, which confused people because we're already pre-ordering it here in the US where it doesn't say that it's a game key card. So Marvelous came out and stated this about their upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 releases, saying our physical editions for Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma, Story of Seasons, and Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion in the West will feature the full game on the cartridge. Hope that helps clear things up. Marvelous is going to get a lot more sales because of this, because people definitely want to be able to have their physical game. Now, yes, there is a large push to digital. There are a lot of people that are buying digital games on the Nintendo Switch, on Xbox, and on PlayStation, but I still feel that providing a good physical copy is something that these developers should do. Now, I understand that there's definitely some really weird and I would say somewhat unavoidable circumstances with game key cards and with Nintendo Switch cartridges, considering Nintendo had to up the quality of the cartridges, up the speed, and the cost. Apparently, these cartridges are fairly expensive. These games that they're bringing over are pretty large in size. Some games are 70, 60 gigabytes plus, so it would need to be on a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Not a lot of developers are going to want to pay for that, and we saw that quite a bit with bigger games on the Nintendo Switch 1, where developers would have a partial cartridge where it's only 8 gigabytes and then you have to download the rest. So this game key card thing has pretty much already been a thing on the Nintendo Switch 1, but the difference now with this is that it's going to be more prevalent because the games are finally getting a massive bump in quality and file size, to have lower quality audio and do different things to fit it into a smaller file size, because the expectations was the Nintendo Switch clearly is not as strong or anywhere near as strong as PS4, PS5, Xbox Series. But now at this point, you have a system that's significantly stronger and can handle a lot of these PS4, PS5, Xbox Series type of games, and you're going to get that quality as well. And that quality needs file space when it comes to the audio, when it comes to the textures, when it comes to everything that it does. So that puts them in a very tough spot because a lot of them aren't going to want to pay that 64 gigabyte cartridge. But shout outs to Marvelous for doing this. This is definitely a good thing. I like to see that. For me, I know I'm going to go with Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion at launch. I don't know about Rune Factory, but I'll definitely get it at some point. I will support the full real physical games, but yes, a lot of the titles coming over are going to be key cards. Now, there are some rumors that Nintendo only has 2 configurations of the cartridges at this point, and that is 8 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes, which is definitely very weird because the Nintendo Switch 1, I think, had 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, and 32 gigabytes for developers to be able to use. And yes, the large majority of developers did not opt to use the 32 gigabyte cartridge because it was too expensive. A lot of them didn't even opt to use the 16 gigabyte cartridge because they'd rather just say, hey, look, take the 8 gigabyte and then download the rest of the game if it's a big title. So I do feel that we need to get some more clarification on that. We don't really know exactly what's happening with it. It could be a production thing at the beginning, and Nintendo could ramp up production for other sizes as time goes on. So we will have other developers using a 32 gigabyte cartridge or a 16 gigabyte cartridge. But for right now, we just don't know. So it's going to be hard to really tell one way or another. Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion and Guardians of Azuma are both on 64 gigabyte cartridges, but we're going to have to wait and see on that. But let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. And this is very interesting because some people are dreading the potential ramifications or impact of Mario Kart World and this game, and people actually buying it for the $80 for the physical standard price or for the standalone digital price. Now, once again, you can get it for $30 off here in the US if you buy the bundle. A lot of people opted for the Mario Kart World bundle. Some did not though, or some could not get the bundle. They opted to get the Nintendo Switch Standard for $450 and then buying Mario Kart World separately. And apparently Stealth is reporting on Twitter that trying to buy the Mario Kart World alone is crashing the Best Buy website. Other games you can buy, no problem, not Mario Kart. So that was on the pre-order launch day, pretty much right when people were pre-ordering and all of that, and it was a complete craziness and madness. So people were essentially picking up whatever bundle they can get, probably that standard bundle, and saying, okay, I'm gonna buy Mario Kart World in terms of it separately. And yeah, early adopters are going to buy Mario Kart World. Early adopters are going to go out there and spend the extra money on the game. And I want to make sure that I just do this clear because I don't like the price increase on anything. I don't like the price increase when it comes to Mario Kart World. I made a whole video talking about that. But you also have to realize that consumers are allowed to spend what they want to spend, and a lot of them don't spend on other things that you would seem, okay, I'm going to spend on, right? So everybody has differences in what they want to buy or not. There's a lot of people that I've seen that spend $200 plus on Game Pass, spend $100 plus on PSN just to play games online, or $80 just to play games online. A lot of these Nintendo fans that are probably buying Mario Kart World don't buy PSN, don't spend their money on that, don't spend their money on Game Pass and $200 something a year, or whatever the case is, right? Don't buy all of Microsoft and Sony's first-party games, or buy a bunch of stuff like that. Maybe they just like first-party titles that Nintendo releases, so they have the extra cash to do that. So everybody's different at this point. So I do think that as a consumer, obviously some people are going to make their own choice. Now, once again, don't like the $80 price tag. Definitely want to keep prices lower. But if anybody thought this game was not going to sell because of $10 more, I mean, it's Mario Kart. That sold 70 million units on the Nintendo Switch 1. And I would say a good portion of people actually spent more than $80 on Mario Kart 8 overall. The original game on the Wii U, if you went back that far, the game on the Nintendo Switch plus the DLC was $85 plus if you're buying it separately outside of the expansion pack, if you have it there. And I think a lot of people actually bought the DLC separately. So I do feel that it's kind of one of those things to where people are just going to buy what they want to buy, and you can support what you want to support. If you don't want to support it, don't support it. If you do, you do. But yeah, pretty much people are going to buy what they want to play at the end of the day. But once again, I will say it for the people in the back, or people that try to clip, or whatever the case is, I do not like to jump up to $80. Definitely would have liked it if it was 70. I think it would have been better, obviously, for the consumer. But I think Nintendo knows that with Mario Kart and how big this game is, they probably developed it for a long time. They're looking to get a bit more, so they were able to get a bit more. People want to play Mario Kart, and they think that it's going to provide them that value for the game because they're going to be playing it all generations. So it is what it is on that one. But very interesting to see that Mario Kart is probably going to have big sales outside of just the bundle so far. So what do you guys think about everything that we talked about here? There was quite a bit of news when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.